So word on the street is your girl got engaged. It happened 2 weeks ago, yesterday, and I don't want to super harp on like, oh my God, your girl got engaged. This is the story of like me and my engagement. Well, like that's fun, and also why I don't just want to like brush over it and pretend like that didn't happen, because that wouldn't be authentic either. But I really thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about some major life lessons that have really come into my awareness since being engaged, because it's a major life event, you know what I mean? And so without a doubt, my brain is picking up on all of these new realizations on life and interactions with people and feelings about myself and ways to handle yourself and hold yourself when you're feeling nervous, and all of this kind of like fun stuff that I hadn't been exposed to before being engaged that I'm now realizing. So I wanted to share with you guys these life lessons that I've really been able to hone in on since I was proposed to. I'm going to do that though by sharing the story with you of how I got engaged. So it's super fun and a little story time, and also lessons that you can take with you for your life without having to get engaged in order to learn them. Maybe in order for them to really sink in, you have to experience something that triggers these emotions or expose yourself to these kinds of things to like really fully grasp what I'm talking about. But, you know, you've got your girl Sarah to help you out, and you don't have to actually go out and live your life and experience it in order to become aware of it. So these are life lessons that my engagement has taught me. I spent my whole week at home with my family and had zero idea that on this trip I was going to get proposed to. I definitely assumed I was going to get proposed to somewhere cool in Florida, not at home. But there were enough clues that were happening that day that led me to believe that something was going on. The first one being that he asked to borrow his friend's motorcycle, and I was able to talk myself out of that being like a special moment, because that was something that we did when we first started dating, because we flew to Illinois. So we didn't have a means of transportation. So it made sense that if we wanted to go on a date that he would ask to borrow the friend's car compared to like a parent's car or something like that, that he just wanted to do something fun. The surprise date also didn't catch me off guard, because he does that kind of stuff all the time. So it really wasn't out of the ordinary. The other thing was that he came upstairs and he was like, why is there a cake in the fridge? He's an idiot. Like, what? Hello? Like, don't you think that maybe somebody got that for you? Because his dad knew that he was going to propose. And so he like basically like ratted himself out on that one. And then when we were leaving, he was telling his son, like, don't worry, I'll be back before you go to bed. And I was like, where are we going to go that we're only going to be gone for like an hour? That's strange. So these few things like definitely tipped me off. And then because we took a motorcycle ride up to Kenosha, to the pier there where we used to go on dates when we first started dating, and where I actually had told him that like a year ago that I would want to marry him, that's where he ended up proposing to me. So we're on this motorcycle ride up to the area, and I'm not 100% sure where we're going yet, because I am not familiar with that area, and he's taking back roads, not a highway like we normally would. So I'm like, are we going here? Are we going to the city? Like, what are we doing? I'm not 100% sure where we're going. On this motorcycle ride though, I'm like trying to like piece things together, because I don't have him to sit there and talk to, because I'm on a motorcycle. So I have all this time to sit there and think. And I definitely was like piecing all these things together. And then I was like, oh my God, my sister wanted to do my nails at the beginning of this trip, not because she's thinking about becoming a nail artist, which was like totally on par for her. She's always looking for like cool creative jobs like that. So I like didn't even think anything of it when she said it to me. That was a lie. Like that was such a fucking lie. It was so I could get my nails done, and I didn't even catch on to it in the slightest. So being on the back of the motorcycle leads me to my first life lesson. I'm coming to realization of all of these things that add up that might mean I'm getting proposed to. And at the same time, I'm talking to myself saying, you know, don't get your hopes up. It's just a regular date. I don't want to be disappointed by the date that we go on. So I'm like definitely like being my Taurus self, rationalizing and creating reason for all of the things that are going on. But I had enough awareness to say, But if this is what's happening, this is going to be a moment that you're going to want to remember for the rest of your life, or that you will remember for the rest of your life. No matter how this plays out or what happens, I'm going to know this time that I get proposed to, and I'm going to want to really remember it. And so that said, I'm going to really want to live it. This is the one time that I'm ever going to be able to completely live in this moment. It's never going to happen again. It's only this little bit hour of my life that I really get to be in this moment. So let's be in this moment. Stop thinking about everything, stop worrying about other stuff, and just be on the bike, feel the wind in your hair, listen to the music, really soak in this experience. And living in the present has been something that I've always heard, like my whole life. And it just seems so like no shit, live in the present. Like, I get that, but like, that's not going to happen. That's actually impossible. I literally have a voice on constant in my brain. Like, if you are one of my Twilight fans, and Edward talks about how when he can read thoughts and he's just like in a room that it's constant hum of people's thoughts all the time. Like if you're in an auditorium and you can just hear everybody talking, but you can like tune in and out to certain voices. That's what my head sounds like. I've got like, I'm psycho inside of my mind. I have all of my millions of thoughts constantly going. So it's nice to be able to tune into my meditation girly skills and turn that down a little bit and actually just live in the moment. And I've been really able to understand what that means more recently, not even just in this moment, but like, for example, I moved from Charlotte, North Carolina to Tampa, Florida. And now that I'm in Tampa, I think of restaurants and places that I really enjoyed in Charlotte that I can't go to anymore because I don't live there anymore. And I spent so much time while I was in that moment in Charlotte, not liking it and being focused on where I was going to go next, that I didn't take the time to actually enjoy time there. So now that I'm in Tampa and I know I'm not going to be able to stay in my townhouse forever, I'm really enjoying my backyard that I love. I'm enjoying the 2 floors that I have. I'm enjoying my office space here that I have, because I know that wherever I go next, it won't be this exact place. So instead of focusing so hard on where I'm going in the future or thinking about everything else, just really being able to soak in the present. So that's what I was doing as we were riding the bike there, and really working on my meditation skills to quiet my mind and just be in the moment, which I think was really, really awesome, that I was able to have the skill set to recognize that and become aware of that and then execute it. So really being able to do that for yourself and building the skill of recognizing moments that you're going to want to be present for, because it is true. You're not going to be doing that 100% of the time. You're going to, obviously be living in your head sometimes, most times maybe, but maybe over time we can, make it so that you're not always in your head. But if you at least can practice at first recognizing moments that you do want to be present for and then executing it, I think that obviously is going to be a big step in the right direction towards living in the present. So we get to the pier and we're walking down the pier, and Frank's like a super big talker. He always is like talking. And he was like silent most of the time to walking up to the pier, which like was another weird indicator. And he was stalling and like reading the graffiti on the ground because he was nervous. And finally he got down on his knee and he proposed to me. And there's 2 life lessons that came from this. So the lighthouse specifically is not like the most grandiose place to be proposed to. It was very pretty. It was very meaningful to us. So that made it great. But it's not like it's like this, like what every girl's dream is to get proposed to at the Kenosha fucking lighthouse. But what was so great is I never have had a very specific picture in my head of how I wanted to be proposed to. If there's a lot of people, if there's a little people, literally like exactly where I am, I never had a picture. And this next life lesson is something that I've always carried with me, but it really absorbed for me during this experience. And that is to have no expectations. And when I say this, people sometimes get a little weirded out by it because they think you're supposed to have expectations for yourself. But I'm not saying don't have standards. You have to have standards, but you don't have expectations, because then you're not disappointed when it doesn't play out how it's supposed to, and you're not underprepared if it plays out even more than you expected. So to have no expectations allowed me to just be really happy about the moment and really absorb what was happening and focused on the meaning behind what was happening and not how it was happening. And it allowed the experience to just be so much better for me, because I wasn't like, oh, this isn't what I was expecting, or I wasn't like, oh, this is not what I was expecting, that it allowed me to just really enjoy what was happening for what it was. The second life lesson that I got right there on the pier was from Frank's nerves. Because he was so nervous, it dawned on me that it's crazy that we get so in our heads about how we're going to be perceived. If we would just show up in the world thinking only about how we would like to get our point across, what we want to say, how we want to act, and not be worried about how what we say and what we do will be perceived, we would actually be able to carry things out closer to how we pictured in our head. Because obviously, him being nervous and jittery and like kind of talking fast, like that wasn't, I know it wasn't in his head plan, like how he wanted to execute that situation. But because you get nervous and you're afraid of how another person might perceive you, you're worried about the repercussions, you're worried about judgment, that you fumble and you screw up how you exactly want to execute things in your head. You do it with your boss and your coworkers and your friends and your family, that we're so concerned about how we're going to be perceived that we psych ourselves out and don't act in alignment with how we pictured in our head. And while you're not going to ever probably do it exactly as you pictured in your head, you're going to get pretty damn close if you, again, just act based on what you want to do and how you want to show up in the world and how you want to present yourself, compared to just being so focused on the opposite and how other people see you. The next one is more of a mindset shift, and maybe it's a little bit more personal, but I hope just by sharing it that maybe you could find a way to relate it to yourself as well. When we left the pier where he proposed, we were going to the restaurant across the street from the pier that we used to always go to. So we're used to this place closing at 11 o'clock, and since COVID, apparently the hours have changed, and we showed up at 9:01 and the place closed at 9. Of course it did. So the place that we're going to go like get a drink, eat is fucking closed. So we're like, awesome. Let's go to the next place. Nothing stopping us. No big deal. We try to go to the next place. Tell me why the clutch on this man's motorcycle breaks. So we're stranded on the side of the road in the pitch black with tons of bugs and have to wait for a motherfucking tow truck to come pick our asses up. If you saw my Instagram post about my engagement, I put the tow truck on the slide, and I feel like people were like, why the fuck is there a tow truck on the side? Well, bitch, that's why. That's why, because we had to get a fucking tow truck on that day. And Frank was so aggravated because he was just like, God, why can't anything go right? But here's my perception, and this is the life lesson, is being able to take the situation for what's happening and flip your perception on it to look at it in a more positive light. And I don't like to use the word positive because it's not a matter of like 180ing it to positive and negative all the time, but you do want to have a more positive outlook on life, obviously. So this was, my perception of it, instead of being like, oh my God, is this a bad omen? Is this a sign? Why is everything going wrong? Why isn't it working? Does this mean something? Or It could mean that the one thing that went right was the fact that the two of us made the major life decision to spend the rest of our life together, and we could withstand all of the obstacles that are always thrown our way. Him and I always have this like issue with luck that shit always like happens in both of our lives individually and together. So it was just like so on par for this to be happening. But it also, like I said, was just this like moment of like, let's flip it. Like, it's not about it being a bad omen. It shows that it doesn't matter that all of this shit is going wrong, that you and I do a good job at working together against the problem instead of turning on each other. We still have a good time while this is happening. We're laughing while this is happening, just working to figure it out without getting heated and flustered and angry. And then we're snipping at each other because we're stressed out. None of that happens. So I thought, it's just a good way to flip it and look at things. So obviously the next part in the whole proposal is telling people that we're engaged. This was weirdly something I was so worried about before I was engaged. Like, I didn't know how I was going to tell my family. Like, I thought they would judge me. I'm the oldest. And so I'm like the first one to get married. So that kind of terrified me, the pressure of that. I was afraid to tell my mom because my mom's opinion means absolutely the entire fucking world, moon, stars, everything to me. And so like I didn't want her to have any sort of bad reaction. So I was afraid of that. And when I got engaged, the first thing I did was tell literally everybody I saw. Like, I wanted to post it on the internet. I called my sister right away. Then I called my mom. Then I called my dad. The next morning I got on like our family's grandpad situation that it's like a little like social media feed for just my family. And I shared the pictures on there and told them and was super excited and all the things. But people aren't afraid more than you would think to share their opinions with you. Whether it's good or bad, people come out of the fucking woodwork to congratulate you. I mean, I've had people that I haven't talked to in years commenting on my posts and messaging me. Like, basically my entire sorority said something to me. My friends from high school reached out to me. Like, it was super, super, super nice. And I was so excited with the interaction that I got from it. But it's just so bizarre how this major life event happens and so many people come out of nowhere to say something to you. So it's kind of almost unnerving because you're like, whoa, like this is like, I don't realize like how, I don't know, how intense it is essentially. Like, it really makes it more intense. But then also people want to share their opinions with you as well. Like, for example, I got someone say, "Are you sure he's the one?" Even though he has a kid. And it's like, oh, so that's your opinion of this. Like, that's interesting, whatever. No, I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure. That's why I said yes. That's why I've lived in 2 different states with him in 4 different apartments and have been dating him for 4 years. Yeah, I'm pretty unsure. I don't know. And my sister made a really good point with this, that you see people project their fears and the way that they process things and the way that they show up and the way that they perceive the world onto you. That it's not that they're trying to be dicks, hopefully, but that they're sharing with you things that worry them. So they share it with you because it's how their brain processes the information, because of the things that they've experienced in their life. Every single tiny little event has created their perception, and obviously every single little tiny event that they've experienced has been different than every single little tiny event that you've experienced, and so they think about things differently than you do. So it's their way of processing and then perceiving and sharing their opinion with you. And it isn't a testament to them not liking you or them thinking badly of you or that they're trying to be mean or rude or passing judgment. It's just the way that their brain thinks. Obviously, that isn't the same for everybody. There are people out there that want to make snide little comments about how you do things. Oh, that's the kind of dress you want to wear? Oh, those are your colors? Oh, that's the venue? Like obviously there's people that want to be shitty and be hurt because apparently engagements like really trigger something in some people that they just like want to be a dick. But I think a lot of the time when it's like family and friends that are saying stuff to you, it's not something for you to take so personal. It's just the way that their brain works and the way that they think about things, and therefore the way that they share those things with you. The last major life lesson that I feel like I have learned, and I'm looking forward to absorbing even more, is that you have the power to do whatever you want. I had to have some hard conversations with family about who and who is not allowed at my wedding. And it's because I felt entitled to choose that, because it's my day. It's mine and Frank's day to choose who we want to celebrate our love with. And it's not up to anybody else. And a lot of the time you do have to, make sacrifices with what you want to take into consideration the people you love's feelings and opinions, and maybe show up places with people that you don't necessarily like. But this is one of those circumstances that I feel I can make all the choices for what I want to do. And I don't have to people please or be so high strung about how other people are going to feel based off of my decisions. But the life lesson is that, yes, it might be a little different because it's my wedding and I'm definitely more entitled to doing that in my wedding life compared to my regular everyday life. But we really do have the power to make our own choices. Like, we really, really do. And you don't realize that almost until you've been given an excuse to say, well, oh, it's my wedding, so now I have the power to have my own choice. But it's really so easy. You just have to decide that you are entitled to that you are able to choose what you do and do not want to do with your time and your energy. And you don't need an excuse in order to do that. And it feels really good to say how you feel and put it out in the open and set your boundaries and stand your ground and actually make choices that align with what you want to do. I definitely just said my last life lesson, but I got one more for you in the same respect of having to talk to family and have hard conversations with family about who and who is not allowed to go. You are allowed to feel two things at the same time. There are people that I don't want at my wedding, and I can feel very strongly about that, but I can also feel sad or bad about disappointing people that I love because other people aren't invited that they are connected to. And I feel bad about it, and I feel sorry for my family member feeling bad about it that I love very much and want there. But just because I feel sad about it and sorry that it makes another person feel badly or sadly that I care about, doesn't mean that I don't also feel strongly about not wanting specific people there. You can feel two things at once. And just because you feel both doesn't mean you have to cave on the strong want or need that you have in order to protect your own peace or to set your own boundary. You can feel both things at the same time. And it plays into that same idea of you have the power to do whatever you want. You just don't realize it because you're not given the excuse to do whatever you want on a regular day-to-day basis. But this is the same thing. It's like you can feel these two things, but just because you feel badly about how your thoughts, feelings, actions might make somebody else feel. And that's obviously good to have that empathy. You have to put yourself first and do what you want first. And you can feel both of those things at the same time. And honestly, I think that makes you an elite fucking bitch if you feel both and communicate both at the same time. Like saying to those people, I'm so sorry. Like, I hate that I have to say this, or I hate that I can't just, be comfortable going out in social events, or I wish that I could have more capacity to talk to you about your problems. I'm so sorry. I wish I could be there for you more. I wish I was a better friend. I wish I was a better sister. I wish I was a better whatever, but I just don't have the space for it. You can have both feelings at the same time. So it's been 3 weeks, and those are the life lessons that I've learned so far. I am absolutely sure that as episodes continue, as I'm going through this wedding planning process, you'll hear more life lessons along the way. Things that I'm really looking forward to honing in my skill at and getting better at is my ability to say no. I think that is something that's really going to be tested and strengthened through this process. I'm also really excited to get better at doing what I want and practicing thinking about and focusing on what it is I want and not allowing the opinions or suggestions of others influence what I want to do with my life so that I can use it for this specific event, but then again, carry it into my regular life as well. And honestly, I'm looking forward to everything that this experience is going to teach me and just being really open and receptive to what this temporary, memorable time in my life is going to show me and teach me. I've been collecting your guys' questions and things that you want advice on, and I want to actually start incorporating them into the show because I keep telling you to submit your questions and advice, and then I never fucking answer the questions and advice. So I'm excited to actually start incorporating it into the episodes. I'm thinking that we'll do a couple questions at the beginning of every solo episode. So make sure to get those submitted. I've been answering 2 questions a week on my TikTok, so make sure to follow me there at Sarah Rittendale. You can also follow me on my personal Instagram for daily self-improvement tips and stuff along those lines. That's at sarah.rittendale. And then you can also follow Wellish's Instagram at Wellish Podcast for any updates on the show. Thank you so much for listening and celebrating my engagement with me. I hope you were able to take something away from this. I really want it to make it not so me oriented. I just want to be able to provide you with things that you can use in your own life. So I appreciate you listening, and I hope you took something away from it. I'm so sorry for neglecting you for the last 3 weeks, but we are back on track, baby, and we are getting all of the self-improvement and personal growth to be the best fucking people in the whole world. Nobody can stop us. I love you. Do not forget you're elite as fuck. I will talk to you guys next Monday. Bye.